Charlie Kirk helped create a Jesus generation, and I've been gifted to get to know some very faithful young men. And on the topic of the Jesus generation, I want to introduce you today to my CrossFit coach, James Sprague. Won the games a year before, third this year, and I don't think he'd be doing this without Jesus Christ. So we're going to talk about faith. We're going to talk about freedom, and we're going to talk about fitness. We'll do this with the help of Visible, govisible.com, and of course, with God Almighty.
The Todd Herman Show is 100% disapproved by big pharma, technocrats, and tyrants everywhere. No. From the high mountains of free America, here's the Emerald City exile, Todd Herman.
Today is the day the Lord has made, and these are the times through which God has decided we shall live. And James Sprague, welcome to the Todd Herman Show. And yeah, I'm not going to make the joke about getting my hand broken because everyone does that with you.
Thank you for having me, Todd. It's we've been planning this out for a couple months now, and things finally opened up in the schedule to be here. So I'm stoked to be chatting with you about all good things today, man.
Yeah, and I have a belief about you that I shared in the intro, and that is that I want you to answer this question. We'll get to this in a second, but I want you to think about this. Could you be where you're at in life without Jesus Christ?
No chance. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't even need to think about it.
No, don't even need to think about it. Yeah. I have been blessed more than I can imagine with things, experiences, opportunities. In the last few years since I gave my life to him, and I got baptized in August of 2023. And I gave my life over to him about 2 years ago. And ever since then, it's just been, there's hard things in life, but there's just so much good in life since giving my life to Christ. Yeah.
And your father, who I've gotten to know, your dad, Pat, he kind of led the way in that as well. And I know Jesus Christ has been the motivating change in your dad's life.
Yeah, 100%. So my dad, ever since he got sober, it was almost 14 years ago now, he has, in AA, they teach you to find a God. And obviously for us, it's our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But they just want you to take everything off yourself, take any idolatry of yourself or alcohol or substance or whatever your addiction is and put it into something, a higher power. And obviously there's one true higher power, uppercase G, God. And my dad found him when he got sober, truly found him, I would say, when he got sober and realized, I can't do this on my own.
Yeah. And your dad and I've talked faith, we've talked fitness. Your dad's also a very, very skilled and successful CrossFit athlete. And, I mentioned this before, but sometimes when you're teaching me, you've been kind enough to do some in-person coaching with me, and the best coaching experiences I've ever had. So thank you, James.
So glad. Yeah.
When you have taught me, we've been talking about mastering movements, and you once said to me, Todd, I've mastered that movement. And then you said to me, I've done this for 13 years, brother. Remember that. And I look at you and I think, but you're 23. Yeah. Right. And that brings this to mind that you're 23 and we just lost a guy who was 31 years old. And had a family and a wife. Where were you? I'm assuming you've tracked the news and you saw what happened to Charlie Kirk and where you were and how'd that hit you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it's been, since recording this, it's been 8 days now, which is wild. Every day has been heavy, I would say, on my heart, on a lot of Christians' hearts, a lot of people that listened to his content and knew the kind of man he was. I was in the gym doing some gymnastics intervals with my buddies. Heart rates were high, and we're in a rest interval, and we get this news. My buddy opens his platform and sees this video, and the first thing that goes to my mind is like, this is fake, this is AI generated, like, oh, you know what, like this didn't really happen. And I'm kind of just in like denial a little bit. Yeah. Charlie actually was a man who inspired me to start being bold about my faith and not be scared of any conversation. So Charlie's content I was listening to all the time. He was a guy that just inspired me in so many ways to just be fearless. And I think that's the word that comes to my mind when I think of him. He was a fearless leader. He didn't care about any judgment. He didn't care about any, thing the world had to say about him. He was on an unstoppable mission. And so, I got that news, and obviously I'm just kind of like pausing, like, what does this mean? Like, where do we go from here? This is obviously the first time I, as a 23-year-old, have experienced something like this, a big political leader, a man of God being martyred. And so this is something I'm still like digesting and learning how to process with. But Todd, have you seen anything like this in your day and age?
It's a great question, James. I've seen assassination attempts. I saw the assassination attempt on President Reagan. I've seen people I looked up to die. I would liken it to the day that they laid President Reagan to rest. I mean, we knew that he was going to die. I remember when he was shot, and clearly that made a huge impact on me. And learning later that having been shot, there was so much that happened behind that. He went into the hospital, and James, it was miraculous. God saved that man. Those bullets should have taken him out. He's on the stretcher, and they're wheeling him in, and a doctor comes up. This always gets me.
Yeah.
A doctor comes up and says, "Mr. President, we're going to take good care of you." And he said, "Well, I have one question." And he said, "What's that, Mr. President?" He goes, "Are you Republican?" And the doctor said, "Mr. President, today we're all Republican." And they went in and they saved his life. And there were people who died in that. And there were people who were maimed in that. And President Reagan said, "I need to go show people I'm okay. I need to show the world we have a president." And they said, "You can't, sir." And I said, "No, I will." And so there's this scene that you'll see President Reagan waving to people and through the hospital window with his smile, and he had his suit coat on and his tie, and behind him there were people holding him up because he couldn't stand on his own. And so, James, I remember when he was laid to rest, his wife Nancy couldn't bring herself to release the coffin. She was laying on it.
Yeah.
And did you weep when you learned about Charlie?
There were some definitely heavy tears. It wasn't
in the
right
gym
away.
Environment too. Oh, okay. It was later.
It was later. It was when I got home, and then the next day, just kind of chatting about it with some friends, and then in the car during prayer time. It's been heavy. I actually watched the Reagan movie. Have you seen the Reagan movie?
I haven't seen that yet.
It's incredible. So that scene you're describing, they don't show him being held up, but they do that Republican scene with the doctor. I remember that scene specifically. And then one of my favorite songs that makes me think about my wife is actually a song they played in that movie where he was dancing with Nancy, having a slow dance. It's one of the first times that they actually interacted before they got married.
Yeah.
It's "My Eyes Adored You." Have you heard that
Yes,
song?
of course.
Yeah, and I love playing that song with my wife now because it makes me think of their relationship and their unconditional love to each other. Like the movie is not, it's premised on their marriage and it's premise on his presidency, and it's just so beautiful because they had this love for each other and the love for the country that you just you see in office nowadays, but that was just a different presidency. It was different. If you go watch the movie, you'll know why. It was very cool.
No, my wife and I will have to watch it. Our song, we've got some different songs for different reasons, but we danced to "Come Away With Me" by Norah Jones, and my mom and her late husband had to teach us how to waltz. So anytime that comes on, I feel that. And you're speaking about faith and this. How do you, as a man of faith, look at this and answer the question? Because you're going to get this from guys your generation, people your generation are going to say, "Okay, James, tell me why your God let this happen. Your God allowed this to happen to this guy you think is a good guy. So tell me why your God would do that." How do you respond to stuff like that?
Yeah, I respond. That's not an act of God. That's an act of man. Man has a choice. You've probably talked about this on your podcast before. We have free will for a reason, to use it for good or for evil or for whatever you choose to. If we didn't have free will and we were forced to do something, I think that would not make our God good. Our God is a good God who allows us to have a choice. Obviously, he wants us to choose him, choose righteousness, choose peace, choose kindness, choose uplifting, choose to serve. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's people that don't choose that. And a lot of people these days who choose their own way, choose deceit, choose lying, choose to live in their own truth. And God has a truth, and it is not what this shooter was. This shooter was, in my opinion, overtaken by darkness. There was demons inside of this person. There was so much evil inside of him that obviously God can help with, but you have to accept him into your heart to allow him to help and mend that and heal that. And so, if someone asked me that, I would say that's not a work of God at all.
Yeah.
That's a work of man.
Yeah.
And they...
Yeah, and so but we'll talk though, brother, about like, okay, but you just said that he saved Reagan. Why didn't he save Kirk? And one of the things I will say to respond to that is, I don't know why God makes his decisions, but I know who God is. So I know he only does this for our good. Now I'm watching, and I've gotten 4 or 5 emails this week from people saying, hey, you know what happened to Charlie? That's the final straw. I'm going back to church, or I'm going to church. And I've had... I was just at a Bible group the other day, Bible study group, faith group, discipleship group with some brothers my age. 2 men had family members say, that's it. There's evil in this world. I'm coming to God. I need your help. I want to understand Jesus. I want to come to church. And I can see, I can see Charlie Kirk in heaven with Jesus. As Jesus is going, look
what you did.
Look what, and this is, hey, and I'm going to be there for your family. I'm God. I'm going to take care of family. Your wife and kids, they're going to miss you, and they're going to be okay. And we're going to pour love into them. And to me, that's a very inspiring thing, because when my dad died, I encountered his soul. And my dad came to Jesus late, and it took a pot-smoking cowboy pastor from Idaho to bring my dad to the Lord. But James, when my dad passed, I encountered his soul, and my dad was happy. And my dad was not a happy man. So this is a topic that's got to be near to your hearts. It's about recovery. It's about taking care of the body, and it's about edge science. My friends at Renew Healthcare are very convinced that they're going to introduce a cure to diabetes in the next 6 months to a year. How could that possibly be? How could stem cells do that? Well, the stem cells at Renew are extraordinarily well cared for, unlike the stuff you're allowed to do in America. First of all, they're donor cells, which is illegal here. They know the mother, and they get to know the baby because they track their health during pregnancy and afterwards. They then take the placentas and the umbilical cords, and they extract the wart and jelly portion of the umbilical cords, and they take that, they walk it all of about a 5-minute walk from a world-class hospital to their world-class lab. There they examine the cells, and they reject sometimes 80% of the material they get, because it's not to their standards. They then culture the cells that remain. This allows them to have absolutely the best possible purity and potency when this goes into your bodies, unlike what happens in America. They have addressed things like neurological issues, partial paralyzation. They've addressed things like people being unable to open and close their hands. They can keep you out of surgery. You might not need surgery for your knee or your back. I didn't need surgery on my back, praise God. And yeah, that cure for diabetes, it's because these stem cells are actually successful at resetting people's entire immune systems and destroying inflammation in the body. No matter what you're ailing from, I want you to give them a check, see if they can help you. It's renew.healthcare, renew.healthcare. They can't help with everything. And when they can't, they'll tell you. They couldn't keep me out of surgery on either of my shoulders. But man, they helped me with recovery in my second one. It's renew, RENUE.healthcare.
Wow.
And so I've seen a resurgence, and I want to see if you see the same thing, that I'm in my late 50s. Clearly, you know that as my coach, but is there the resurgence that a lot of us see with particularly men your age coming to the Lord? Because, man, from where I sit, James, the numbers indicate it. Colloquially, I'm seeing it. Are you experiencing it with people your age?
So at 23 years old, it's kind of this weird time. People are just getting out of college. They're finding new jobs. I would say it's a big age where if you haven't matured yet, you have to get your act together. And I think I'm seeing with people my age or people I went to school with is they're realizing this college partying life, this going out and finding pleasure in worldly things life, it's not going to last. And I think I'm seeing a lot of that with people my age. I can't speak to the high school generation right now because I don't really know where they're at. And I do have friends, obviously. I have a lot of friends, and I try and associate myself with, people of God and people that can encourage me and to be better as well in that way. But I would say, just from an outside in perspective of people I'm seeing at my age, young people, young adults, there's a huge revival going on. Yeah. And I think people are waking up and realizing I need something more. I need truth. And the only place if you want to find truth, you find it in Jesus.
Yeah, praise God. When you won the games, and man, you performed so well this year. Just, so well. It was a great games this year.
For sure.
CrossFit Games is a great games. But when you won and the camera came to you, you immediately had scripture on your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And before you spoke of sponsors, anything else, you spoke of the Lord Jesus Christ. Number one, as I said at the time, personally, thank you for that. Number two, did you pay a cost for that at all with friends, with family, with other people?
So you could say it was paying a cost, but I don't look at it at all as paying a cost. If you want to look at it objectively as paying a cost, I got maybe a quarter of the followers you might get from winning the games as someone who typically might win the games. I got a lot of pushback from people, fans, for proclaiming the gospel and for actually continuing on in the competition. Because if those of you who don't know, who are listening to this, we actually had a competitor pass away during the 2024 CrossFit Games. Tragically, in event one, he drowned, and it was a big discussion between the CrossFit community and the athletes about continuation on of the games. And there's a lot of us who decided the best way to honor our competitor would to be moving on with the competition. And so, I felt like dedicating the competition, obviously, to our friend Lazar, who passed away, was the only way I could continue doing the sport and continue on with that competition for sure. So there was a lot of pushback, but for the pushback that I got, there were 10 times more comments about, James, I'm so proud of you for sharing your faith and sharing what the world needed to hear in this moment. God. And there was no part of me that thought there was another way to go about it. It was every time I got an interview, I needed to just share hope because it was such a dark time in our space and such a hard time for everyone to process, especially those who don't understand what happens after death for Christians and those that don't have a belief in God, because for us, there's hope. Right. There's eternity. Right. And for most people, obviously people that aren't believers, they see death as this end and this horrible thing. And me and you see it as a horrible thing, but we see it as a new start and a new beginning with, and honestly, a beautiful new beginning. And so that was hard for the people that didn't understand the hope that I had. They just thought I was pushing his death aside. They thought that I was, being selfish by continuing. And so there was a lot of that, but like I said, on the other side, there was also a lot of people who supported that mission.
Yeah, we had Greg Glassman, Greg, the founder of CrossFit, on, and we talked about that drowning. And Greg had a lot to say about that and has had some things to say behind the scenes as well. And I'll respect that limit. I want to get to the fitness component of this because one of my drives in life is to help guys my age and people my age and people younger to understand you don't need to live in ways that are unhealthy. And I've told you this, I think I've told you this, and I can show you pictures. I weighed almost 400 pounds at a certain point. Not so long ago, 39% body fat. You know what the average body fat is for men my age in this country?
It's got to be high. It's got to be over 30.
Oh, yeah. No, the average body fat for guys my age is that 39%.
That is insane.
And for guys your age, we're seeing now numbers in the 30s for guys your age.
Oh, my gosh.
And so these are decisions people make. And I tie this to the temple. Our body is a temple. But I want to get there by way of talking about freedom. And I want to ask you a question. Do you discern a difference between freedom and liberty?
I've never thought about that question. Can you define liberty for me? Because I think I could define freedom, but what do you define liberty
you start
as?
by defining freedom.
The ability to act in a way that you think is right.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Well defined. So the libertarian thing says your freedom to swing your arm ends at my nose. That's how the libertarians put it. So do it all you like, just don't hit me. Yeah. It's interesting because that matches up with what we're told is the Satanic Church's definition of their faith. Do it as thou will used to be that. That used to be their pitch. Do as thou will. Now they've added so long as you harm no other, effectively. So, question about, as a Christian man, do we truly believe in freedom or do we believe in liberty? Because liberty can be defined as freedom within limits.
Oh, then I would say we believe in liberty because God sets our boundaries and our parameters and our limits.
Right. Things we can choose to do, and God's also the inventor of accountability, right? So I think that one of the things we as Christian men need to do is I think we need to talk with people about the difference between freedom and liberty, because freedom that alleged assassin, he had the freedom to get up on a rooftop. He had the freedom to take a life. He allegedly did that, and I believe he did. He had the freedom to fall into sin. God says that, hey, when people have been exposed to me, everybody can find me. The right and wrong is within you. Paul talks about this. And you reject that, then God has given people over to all sorts of perversions and darkness, and that was your freedom. You chose that. I think we as Christian men need to talk with brothers about the joy of liberty, having freedom within constraints, because yes, you're free to eat of that fruit, and you're also free to get the disease from that fruit.
Yep.
So do you think that would resonate with guys your age, freedom versus liberty?
100%. I think if they can see where the freedom, just the complete freedom mindset can lead them into dangerous places, it's just such an interesting conversation, because I've never thought of it that way, and I've also never thought of the difference between those two terms. If I'm just, pondering on it, I'm not thinking that deep about it.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, that is such a good thought and such an intentional way of explaining why we live as we do.
Yeah.
Not because we're forced under a set of rules or, we're in utter fear. There's a fear of God, and then there's like, I'm scared of God. That's not it. The fear of God is just wanting to please him and wanting to do as he calls us to.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of men would resonate that in my age, and just understanding that, we're given these choices, but we should have the power to use them for good and be in those restraints and boundaries, because it's for our own good. And when you're talking about the fitness industry and being a Christian and treating your body like a temple, I see a lot of people not moving their bodies and staying in one place and actually not experiencing life as they could be, because they're not working on their body, which is a temple. And I believe if we're healthier, just every part of life gets better. That's also with the food choices you make. When your food choices, your sleep, your workouts that you're doing, and your fitness routine as a whole, if you take that seriously, it's incredible how much easier things in life get and how much more enjoyable things in life get.
Yeah.
Imagine going to Disneyland. This is just a fun example. And you have to do 10,000 steps as a 500-pound person. How fun is Disneyland going to be? Oh, it's going to be horrible.
See, to you, that's metaphorical. To me, that's not metaphorical.
Yeah.
To me, going to Disneyland, I wasn't 400 pounds at that point, but I was 280.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big dude. I mean, I'm not a tall guy like you are. And I'm telling you, you think that's a fun example? I will tell you what that's like.
Yeah.
You have rashes inside your leg because your thighs are rubbing together. Oh. Your back aches, your knees ache. It's another set of steps you have to go do. And at that point, I was still lifting and lifting heavy weights.
So you're not even that 39% mark?
Oh, I was probably at that mark at least at that point. But I was still, I still enjoyed moving heavy iron. But see, there's all this thing. Hey, wow, you can bench press your body weight. Yeah. Because I'll tell people, you know what? My top bench press was 375. Oh, that's awesome. You're strong. Yeah, but I weighed 375. Yeah. So it's not. Weight moves weight. But there's also, though, this is something of the world. And you talked about food choices, etc. I truly have a belief that we have been, so much of the population has been conned into eating drugs and thinking it's food, right? And I want to talk about that in just a second.
Please.
One thing I know about James, like me, James, I'll say this, uses caffeine, and I think enjoys caffeine. In fact, I know, brother, that you are hyper-caffeinated. You have to be when you work out for a living, and you work out 8 hours a day. So for me, my choice for caffeine changed. And it used to be that I would chug a mason jar filled with 4 scoops of freeze-dried Folgers in ice water. Now, I still like an iced coffee. I had iced Bone Frog the other day. And yes, you can use Bone Frog coffee for ice. This coffee is made to honor Navy SEALs. That's what Bone Frog means. The insignia, the frog, that Bone Frog means there's a fallen SEAL. On each bag, you'll see God Country Team, because that's how the founder, Tim Cruikshank, lives. And you'll go experience some labels and some bags that don't exist anywhere else, such as Golden Age. If you love what President Trump is doing for the country and the economy, then buy this bag, which honors that, in image and in roast. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/Todd. Use promo code Todd to get 10% off your first purchase and 15% off subscription coffee. bonefrogcoffee.com/Todd. I'm going to have Alex grab you some water.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. When I weighed that big, almost 400 pounds, I came to understand that I was chasing a drug high, an insulin high. And I learned this because I went to a workshop with a guy he created The Zone. Remember that diet, The Zone? Okay.
Yep.
So I got to go see him speak, and this all made perfect sense to me. And so I started to practice this on my own and realizing that I was chasing insulin highs and, in fact, getting insulin highs. That was a huge change for me. And I see people to this day chasing insulin highs. And this comes from overeating. And this is so easy to do in America. And we're different than other countries. It's so easy to do in America. You walk into a grocery store, anything but the now back of the grocery store, everything in there is about insulin highs. Yeah. And there's people that become addicted to this. I also went at one point to, I got to go to the Taco Bell test kitchen, believe it or not, in California. It was in Burbank, California, just across from the airport. And I worked at Microsoft at the time, and we had this big advertising relationship with these guys. I'm walking through the test kitchen, and they've got 2 whiteboards filled with chemical equations, chemistry. And I stopped and said, "Oh, that's fascinating. What is that?" She said, "Oh, this is where our food chemists work on the structures of the next foods we want to have." And I've learned that the food chemistry is the same thing as the social media chemistry. And this is something your generation is getting nailed in, dude. You guys are dopamine addicts, man. Yep. And I'm not saying you are, but
for sure,
a lot of people who are on that infinite scroll, dopamine. And that's one heck of a dangerous and powerful drug, by the way. So they construct these foods in such a way that it keys up your pleasure centers, perfect mix of salts, fats, and sugars. And it's all about getting you addicted to the point that Burger King apparently studied the smell of the grilled burgers. They broadcast that stuff out, right? That's not natural that all that smoke is coming out of there. Yeah. They're doing everything they can. I got so bad that for a while, had no McDonald's. It had been like 3 years, and I conned myself into thinking, well, I'll just go have a double cheeseburger because that's macrobiotically correct. That's a 40-30-30 food, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but that's an actual 40-30-30 protein, carbohydrates, fat. I ate 2 of those, James, and I'm telling you, by the time I was 5 minutes away, my body's going, I know there's another McDonald's nearby. And all of a sudden, for 2 weeks, I was conning myself. Well, now it's just a fish sandwich. Yeah. And it's just some fries. And all of a sudden, I was captured back into this.
Interesting.
So when people struggle with this stuff, and you're a guy who's fit, and people look at you, and James, I'm sorry, but they look at you and go, you've never struggled with that. You've never had any addiction problems. You've never had any food problems. Have you ever had any food problems?
Oh my gosh, still today. As a guy who trains 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I have the freedom. I wouldn't say the liberty. I have the freedom to eat whatever I want.
Yep.
And
but you put yourself in a state of liberty.
I do. But I put myself in a state of liberty. But sometimes I drift off into this mindset of hey, since you train so hard, you can eat this pizza and this cake tonight, which there is truth to that I won't gain a ton of weight, or it's not going to push my training back if I do it every once in a while. And it actually isn't good to enjoy that balance, because I don't believe that, if you restrict yourself forever, that I think there's enjoyment in having a slice of pizza every once in a while, or having that bowl of ice cream with your wife watching a movie. Like that stuff's enjoyable to me every once in a while. But is that going to help my training? Is that going to help my mission? Is that going to help me win competitions, which is my goal, to win every time I step out there? Yeah. No. But yes, I have struggled. And in fact, in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, I was 185 pounds and I was 5'2". Ooh. So I was a really overweight middle schooler. Ooh. And I was depressed. I was anxious. I actually, I wanted to take my own life in 6th grade.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah. And I'll share more about this. There was so much that was eating at me because I was so heavy. And in that time in middle school, a very judgmental time. Kids are very hard on other kids. And I would go sit down at a lunch table and kids would move because they didn't want to sit with me. I would try and make friends and they would shine me off. And so I just felt lonely. And I credited that to my weight. I thought I was too overweight, and I thought that wasn't the popular thing because all these people that I wanted to be around were, these football, soccer, basketball athletes who took care of their bodies. And so I was just sick of feeling like my weight was holding me back from making friends or being the man I wanted to be. And that is the day I stepped in a CrossFit gym with my dad. I said, I'm done with this. I'm done with feeling tired and depressed and anxious and like my life doesn't have a purpose. And so food was a main cause or a main outlet for me to put my sadness into for 3 years. And that was just such a bad story because there was no ending. Food will just tell you, keep coming back to me, keep coming back, keep coming back. Eat more. It's going to make you feel better. And in fact, it just made me feel worse and worse and worse. And actually, I used to go home, and when I was really sad, I'd want to have a plate of nachos with my dad. And at this time, my parents were just getting divorced. And, it was kind of, I didn't feel like I had that restriction in my diet from parenting. And at that time, I think what's really crucial is that if you're a parent, you got to be watching what your kids are eating too, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know how fat these nachos were going to make me day after day after day. And I didn't know that drinking only orange sodas instead of waters was bad. And I thought that eating candy orange slices was, it's an orange slice. It's close to a fruit.
Yeah,
like
right. That's the Homer Simpson thing. Purple's a fruit,
right?
And the purple, the satanic donut. Purple's a fruit, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, gosh, like and I don't blame my parents one bit. Like I should have understood, but I do think that parenting is important to educate your kids on what food is and what food is not. And I think that I really only learned what protein should be and when you should incorporate carbs and when you should eat fats and how much of each thing. I really only learned that going into high school. Like, why didn't I start having a basic understanding of that in like first grade?
Right.
And so food is a dangerous game that I got caught into and really hurt me for a long time. And now I have a really great balance with it. I know how many carbs I should be eating and what kind of foods I should be eating before my training. I know that I can utilize gummies and dried mangoes and these kind of quick release carbs in my training because they help me perform better.
Right.
And then I know what kind of foods I have to be eating after my training and at nights to be feeling good, waking up and recovered for the next day. And that understanding of food has helped me use it as a liberty and not be so, I don't feel like I'm like so freakish about my diet like some athletes might be, where it's like every gram of carb and every protein I track, but I'm rather just very aware of how things are going to make me feel, what it's going to do for my mood, my training, and what it's going to make me feel like waking up the next day.
Yep. It's an amazing thing sometimes when I'm talking with you, James, and getting coached by you. The other day, we were talking about muscle ups, and I was looking at your muscle ups versus the ones I'm trying to do, and I'm noticing, I said, oh man, your legs are so far out. How come? And you said, Todd, I've mastered the movement. And you didn't say it in any arrogant sense. You didn't. You said, I've mastered the movement. And remember, I've done this for 13 years. And I stand there looking at that, realizing you're 23 and you've done CrossFit for 4 times as long as I have, 13 years. And my friend Zach Abraham's like this. Zach is the founder. He and his wife founded Bulwark Capital Management together. And he's the chief investment officer. She is the chief operating officer, younger than me and so successful. Now, Zach's not as young as James. I mean, he's probably twice as old as James, but younger than me. And he also has an energy. Zach doesn't need the alarm clock. He wakes up at 5:30 to see what's going on in the market because he loves it. And you know what? Money's not even his motivator. You know what is? Making sure people have great retirements, that people are comfortable and secure through retirement. And Zach is going back to the basics. With all the volatility in our country, he's doing a free live webinar to talk about going back to the basics in investing. This is coming up October 2nd at 3:30 Pacific. And all you need to do to go watch this, watch about risk management, how they do it, their outlook for 2025, why this fund Zach manages, I think he told me the other day, is 32% up. Doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, but that's where it's at now. It's free to attend, and if you're near retirement, 5, 10, even 15 years out, it's a must attend. Just go register at knowyourriskpodcast.com. It's free to attend, but you have to register. knowyourriskpodcast.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 25-298. And I'm probably going to get myself in trouble with you now, but
go.
I'm not a I'm not a professional athlete. You know we aren't going to speak about the goal I have. You know the goal, okay? But we're not going to speak about it here.
Love it.
But I go once a week to a place called Embers, and I eat everything. I eat all the pizza. But when I walk in there, I'm at about 4,000, maybe 4,500 calorie deficit. I eat very carefully, and I make sure that when I walk out of there, I'm walking in there, it's all protein, some carbs, and I'll work out twice that day. So this is that day. As we're recording, I'll sit down and I'll go do that. But I'm not a professional athlete. But here's the thing I've noticed. I don't Jones for it. It's done. I enjoyed it. I planned ahead. I coped ahead. And what I've noticed about food addicts is the first bite, this is my caution to people. If there's a quote food you eat and it changes your body chemistry the moment you begin eating it, that is a drug. It's a drug for you. Bread is a drug for me. If I pick up a piece of bread, I will eat more of it. If I eat a oatmeal peanut butter cookie, those aren't the worst cookies. They've got peanut butter. They've got oatmeal. My mind changes. And the more refined sugar it is, like a piece of lemon meringue pie, I'm here to tell you, if I'm in a place where there's a piece of lemon meringue pie and I eat one, I will steal the rest. I'm at a kid's birthday party and, hey, Todd, where are you going? I just forgot something in the kitchen. And I'm in there, I'm on the ground licking the plate. And I know there's more of this. And I'm in there like my friend's freezer's out there. I know they've got this. They didn't just make one lemon meringue pie.
Yeah.
And if anything you consume does that to you, you are dealing with a drug. And it took me a while to figure that out. But once I did and understood that there's also this thing, if food is not your medicine, medicine will be your food. And man, I've seen that with people my age. So when you said that you got to this point where you wanted to take your own life, did you communicate that to people? Did you internalize it? I mean, how'd you get out of that?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. My rock bottom point was in 6th grade. And I used to be so nervous about talking about this because I didn't want to come off in the wrong way. But my rock bottom point was 6th grade. I was getting bullied heavily. I didn't have any friends, like I was talking about. And I was so sad that I drew a picture of me hurting my bullies. And I actually left it in the trash in the classroom.
Yeah.
And obviously the teachers had to follow up on that. They found it, and they took it as a threat. And obviously I was a kid. I loved everyone. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted friends and peace and love. And my rock bottom was when the officers showed up to the school saying, "Are you going to do something to these kids?" And I was like, oh my gosh, no. Like, I am just so sad and sick and tired of being bullied and no one doing anything about it and feeling just so lost. And, the school does a terrible job of, identifying, these kids that are being mean to other kids. And it's such a prevalent thing that goes on more and more, and especially middle school and early high school stages when there's so much crucial development going on. I just felt like no one was going to help me. So I was like, man, I expressed my feelings on this piece of paper, which actually meant nothing because I would have never, ever hurt these kids. But yeah, that was my turning point of realizing like, man, like, you have to take some action into your own hands, lose some weight. And these kids that aren't being your friends aren't people you want to be friends with anyway. These kids that are bullying you are not kids that you're going to go the distance with anyway. And I was too immature to realize that at the time. But yeah, it was a really hard time in my life and actually a really vulnerable topic because I don't want people to look at me as like, you wanted to hurt people? No. Would have never, ever hurt anyone. But I was so hurt inside, I had no way to express it. And I believe there's so many kids battling with this these days that don't express it. So like, how do we get them to see like there's a light at the end of the tunnel? There is, these bullies, these are the guys that are actually suffering. These are the people that are actually, going through it more than you think. They don't have these perfect lives just because they're telling you they're perfect.
No, it's the opposite of that. And so they're going to hurt because they hurt. That's the trite phrase. I got that point in my mid-20s, and I've told the story before in the cast, so I won't belabor it, but I was so screwed up, and I even got on Prozac, and this is when I was at my heaviest and least healthy. And I actually called my mom and told her I was going to do it.
Wow.
And I expected to be able to make the case to my mom, to lay it out logically, and I actually expected my mom to listen to that and go, I'd like to argue with you, but yeah, you're right. You should do it.
Take your own life?
Yeah, I thought I had such a clear thinking that my own mom would go, yeah, you're right. I mean, I hate that, but gosh, and she didn't, obviously. Yeah. She actually had my father and another family member fly down.
Yeah.
And they just showed up at the workplace.
Yeah.
I got off the air, did the radio show and the morning show, and a front desk lady, terrible phrase, her name was Kay. Kay called me and said, hey, we've got some people out to see you. And I walk out, and there's my dad and this other family member. And they came down to make sure I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I guess my dad hated flying. How long are you here? Until you're not going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So I work with young men, and I know you actually, one of your friends he's starting a ministry with young men. James from the gym is also doing that. And I want to give you some hope. 14 and 15-year-old boys regularly come to me and regularly say, hey, I'm thinking about taking my own life. Now, that doesn't sound hopeful. But you know what happens when you hear them and you look at them and go, man, that's heavy. And I feel worried for you. And I love you. And I don't want you to do that because I love you so much. And more so, Jesus loves you, and it would so hurt Jesus. And there's a generation of young men who are learning to be vulnerable with each other, James. And I've seen it in groups where I used to work in government schools. I can see the kids who are targets for bullies. You can too. And I'm watching them, some of these big football player kids, they've got the D1 offers and all that stuff. I'm watching them now reach out and adopt some of those kids.
Wow.
And I saw this great thing. We were at a social event at the church. And so there's some people, some boys we didn't know who came in. And they're football player, wrestler types, North Idaho kind of. I get to say redneck because I genetically test 79.87% redneck. And one of the guys said, who is this jerk? About this kid is a bully target. And one of the biggest, strongest, toughest kids stepped up, put his arm around that kid and said, this is my boy. He's not a jerk. This is my boy.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this change in these generations. James, I know you'll get this because you're a guy with great compassion for people who cannot move like you do. And I've never seen you judge a human being. In fact, we've had these discussions that you, like me, can't stand it when you're in a gym environment and there's someone who thinks they're in shape and they're making fun of somebody who's just getting back into the gym. That hurts me because, hey, they're there. So you'll get this as well. My friend's Alan. He's 14. He's been through 18 operations, and the last operation was fusing his vertebra in his upper neck so that he could walk better. And Alan is also effectively nonverbal through autism, and he's about to say goodbye to his dad. His father, John, who runs Alan Soap so that Alan has a place to work. His son, Ian, has a place to work. We've been employing other people who have similar challenges. That's the purpose of this company that makes it Soap in America, in partnership with a family with 3 generations of soap making expertise. This soap that is all natural, no chemicals in it, very unique fragrances. In fact, there's some new ones you could check out. Alan is now aware that his dad is going to go to the Lord. And we've made it our mission here on the program before John goes to the Lord and hands the business over to his wife to give his wife the best possible chance at success, so that Alan's continues to function and employ people like Alan and Ian. So here's our ask. Go purchase the sample packs of soap, find the fragrances you like, and compare it to the soap you use today. And the soap you use today probably comes from a big company that doesn't care about your values. That's not the case at Alan's. All lives do matter there, and they prove that every day. Go to alansoaps.com/Todd. Try the soap. If you love the soap, subscribe to the soap. If you do not love the soap, we are telling you to not buy the soap. This is not a charity. It's alansoaps.com/Todd. I want to touch on one thing real quick. You are not saying, and I know you're not, because there's a lot of people who carry a lot of extra body weight. My dad did. My dad was obese till the day he died. You are not saying that body weight is your worth.
No, body weight's not your worth. In fact, nothing can be your worth besides your faith in Jesus Christ.
Right.
I think that I always got caught up with my worth was how good I could do at the CrossFit Games. I had that identity until I got baptized and I placed my faith in Jesus.
Wait, your worth was tied up in, I'm only worthwhile if I win the CrossFit Games, then you get baptized, then you win the CrossFit Games.
Correct.
Oh,
that order.
God had a lesson for you.
Very big lesson. And actually, the first year I went to the CrossFit Games was the year I got horribly sick. I tore 4 out of the 10 pads of my fingers off on a rope climb, literally in like the 3rd or 4th event of the competition. I have a 103 fever going into day 2, and I'm just like, well, this could happen every year, and I could always be disappointed and always think I'm worth nothing because this could happen every year. And it was such a great lesson. Even the year before that, I missed the games by 1 point. Going into the final event of my qualifier, I was ahead of the 6th place by 81 points.
I watched this.
Yes. Yeah. And I was so just excited about the fact, like, I'd finally made it. I'd finally made it in life. That was my definition of success in life, making the CrossFit Games. In 2022, it would have been my first year as an individual. I'd made it as a teen before, but making it as a man was a completely different ballgame. You'd made a career out of it at that point, and you are a rising star if you make the CrossFit Games. And, you know, I was going to this final event just like, oh, it's yours to lose now. And a guy makes up 82 points on me. Missed it by 1 point.
I remember that.
How does that happen?
Right.
In the history of CrossFit, that is the biggest comeback in history of any competition to qualify for a CrossFit Games. 82 points made up. He needed to make up 81. And it was actually a pretty divine thing in every aspect because the guy who ended up beating me, his wife had cancer, and they needed this to help their family and the funding. And what I needed was to miss the CrossFit Games to understand I can't place my worth in this. So it was actually pretty like a very spiritual thing because obviously for weeks on weeks after that, I didn't realize like that was God working in my life. Obviously I couldn't see what the whole bigger picture plan was. And, you know, but now I look back at it, I'm like, wow, like you knew what you're doing.
Yeah.
God, and you always do.
Praise God. Praise God for that. I'm wearing some James Sprague merchandise.
Let's go.
The back of the shirts.
A righteous man falls 7 times, yet he rises again. Proverbs 24:16. It's my favorite verse.
There it is.
Rise again.
And James's social media handles are here at the show notes. Give people the best place to follow you, to support a godly man in this pursuit, maybe to get some online fitness coaching from you, which I would encourage people who want to be serious about fitness to do that. I didn't know online fitness and coaching could be what it is. And I do get the blessing of being in the gym with James sometimes.
Oh, man.
But where do people follow you? What's the best place to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Todd, for trusting me with your fitness. I don't take it lightly. I've had the pleasure of being able to coach Todd now for the past few months. And, oh, man, he's a workhorse. He wants to get it done and very easy to work with. He's one of my favorite people to work with.
Notice he didn't say I'm good at it, but that's okay.
No, he's improving a lot. There's things you have that are very strong. And obviously, CrossFit is a multifaceted sport, and there's a lot to get better at.
Right.
But he's doing an amazing job. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Sprague, which is my last name with 4 R's, SPRAGUE, and then same with my YouTube channel. I've been posting a lot there. I post weekly workout content. I post competition vlogs. I post lifestyle vlogs. I post training tips. Anything you guys want to know about the gym or healthy lifestyle, I try and include it on that channel. More of that long-form content, stuff like this podcast, and just me being raw and authentic with people because I don't think that influencers per se should just be posting all the things that make them look glamorous and good. I like to post the real, raw, authentic stuff, just like you do on this podcast, and make sure people see like, you know, the hardships of life and here's how I overcome them. And even I, as a guy who feels like I have everything in the world and every blessing in the world, there's still going to be hard things about life. So I want to explain to people, you know, how I work through these things with a godly perspective. Yeah. And yeah, Todd, it's just been amazing getting to grow and over the past 10, 11 years doing this sport, just seeing like where it's gone. I'll tell you, it's far more than I could ever imagine when I walked in the CrossFit gym for my first time. And for anyone that like wants to start something hard and has a crazy goal, go after it. Like, don't let the world tell you can't or you won't because you're this certain way and this is how you were born. I was told by multiple family members that Spragues just can't have abs. And that I was just like, I believed that for so long. Like, oh, you know, we're just bigger frames. And that was just like an excuse. And I'm like, man, like I believed that. The world limited me to what I could do. And I'm so glad that I got past that and said, you know, if I put my mind to this, I think that's not true. Yeah. I think I can win the CrossFit Games. Even though at a 6'3", 3 body build, that is not the advantageous build to have as a CrossFit athlete. Actually, the guys who have won before me are all between 5'8" and 5'11".
Yeah.
And this year, actually, another big guy won, which was incredible.
Yeah,
Different
Jason,
story.
yeah.
But yeah, I was always like confined by what was possible based on what people did before. And I'm like, break the impossible. Like go be that person who says, no, I'm not confined by that. And so I always encourage people to, just go chase their dream wholeheartedly and not be stopped by what the world has to say.
Absolutely. We're defined by Christ, not by the world. James Sprague, my friend, my coach, God bless you. Thank you for being here.
Brother.
This is the Todd Herman Show. Please go be well, be strong, be kind, make a decision to follow Christ, and I hope that you, like me, get to go hang out with your beloved wife, family members, etc.